Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for our Ask the Expert program. We have T101 with a representative from a local store, TSUM, Minji Sun. She's going to give us some information about how she got started, some breakdown about different teas and possible demonstration. And so we'll have questions at the end. If you have questions, please type them in the chat box. So we'll turn it over to Minji. Thank you all for joining us today.
Hi, I am Minji. Let me start the screen share. One moment. Can you see my slide? Okay, we're good with the slide. I welcome to T101. I'm Minji. I'm going to talk about tea and our brand TSUM today. Did you know that tea sommeliers exist? They're wine sommeliers, and tea sommeliers are what you do with teas instead of wine. That's where our name came from, TSUM. It's the way that you abbreviate tea sommelier, wine sommeliers as wine sums. We shortened tea sommelier and made a word TSUM, and that's our brand name. So me and my sister Jahi started TSUM back in 2018. TSUM is a local artisanal tea company that was born here in Dallas. Me and my sister Jahi grew up in the United States, but we're actually from South Korea. And we were accustomed to drinking herbal teas instead of water at home. Mostly barley tea is like the most famous herbal drink that we drink in Korea. And I will talk more about Korean tea drinking culture in a later slide. But when we came to the States, we saw that families were drinking pitchers of unsweetened and sweetened iced tea with sugar at their dinner tables. And so when I saw that transitioning from barley tea to black tea, that was very interesting when I was really little. My tea journey started, like actual tea drinking journey started when I stopped drinking coffee in college. I was drinking lots and lots of cups of coffee a day. And when I cut it out, juices had a lot of sugars, smoothies also. I don't really like taste of bland water because I grew up drinking barley tea from home. And soda is not very good for you. So I found tea. And I got really curious about tea. So I was searching online and seeing what really is tea. And I came upon a tea sommelier course, and I started to become a tea sommelier. And then I started herbalism. I studied tea blending, and I'm still studying herbalism and CBD courses. And I think this study will continue. We started our company in 2018, and we worked on different blends and how we want to start this company. And in the spring of 2019, we started with four blends on the right side of the screen. Southern Breakfast, Pina Colada, Hibiscus Punch, and Calming Potion are the four that we started at the farmer's market. We really didn't know what exactly we were getting into. Farmers market was so much fun. We got to meet a lot of people. We got to see what kind of teas people like, how they like to drink their tea. And we saw a lot of people were drinking tea with loads of sugar. So when you are brewing like a gallon of tea in the United States, you put about a cup to cup and half of sugar per a gallon. And we wanted to talk about let's drink tea in a better way. Tea doesn't actually need that much sugar, and when you start putting so much sugar into the tea, you actually lose the flavor of the drink. So we had sugar pumps instead of actual sugar in our teas. And in the beginning, we saw people drinking a 16-ounce cup of tea with 8 pumps of sugar, because that's what Starbucks does. You don't know how much sugar actually goes in when you're ordering Starbucks drinks, but you get about 4 to 8 pumps of sugar. So when you are pumping sugar yourself, you tend to pump less, because you're trying the tea as you're pumping it in. So you will stir it in and you will try. So we saw people who went from 8 pumps of sugar to months later coming back week after week. We got people down to like a pump or 2. So we were really glad that we saw that. And when we were looking into our space, this was our space when we first got it. It was an empty shell. It used to be a very large gap in the West Village in uptown Dallas, and we didn't have walls, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have plumbing, so we put everything in, and I will give you a tour a little later. This is in the middle of construction, and we added more teas to our 4 blends. Currently, we have 8 different blends of teas, and people really like it. So we are working on new blends every season, and hopefully people will enjoy them as much as what they enjoy currently. We wanted tea to be accessible to people. When people think of teas, it's either like Arizona bottles where you have a lot of sugar in the drinks, or it's like tea ceremony. You need all of these elaborate equipments, and you need to know so much about tea. But we wanted to say, tea is fun. You can have so much fun with tea. There's pretty much everything is tea. So we have taps in our tap wall, and you see us, they're like taps, they're like beer taps. So people are really interested when they first come in. And we still have sugar pumps in our store, so you're a little more conscious of your sugar intakes. This is our store now, and you will get to see it in a little bit. I don't know how many people drink tea in regular basis. We are very accustomed to drinking lots of coffee every day, but back in the day, before coffee became really popular, tea was one of the main drink, and it was almost used as a currency back then. You know, you've heard of Silk Road, we had Boston Tea Party over here, and tea was such a good commodity to people. And with all the settlers and explorers, we actually, before the explorers, we only had green teas and white teas, and black tea was actually found. It got oxidized in the middle of the traveling in the ship, and that's how we found black tea. So tea has so much history behind it. Tea, we believe, there's no actual definitive date, but we believe that tea was found about 2700 BC, when a tea leaf fell into the water of a monk accidentally, and it transformed his meditation. There are a few different myths, but that's what we're gonna go with for today. Tea is the second most consumed beverage after water currently. So it makes sense that I drink tea every day. In the 1600s, tea became popular in Europe and American colonies, and tea bags actually, these tea bags were found. This is actually an American invention. In 1908, Thomas Sullivan sent his clients teas in little silk tea bags, and they didn't know they were supposed to open it and put it in the pot, and they just dunked a whole tea sack in silk sack into the water, and that's how tea sacks were born. And then iced tea is another invention of America. In wait one moment, I need to find that date. In 1904, in St. Louis World's Fair, an American merchant was selling hot tea in his fair booth, and it was way too hot, and people didn't want to drink hot tea. So he put ice into the steep tea, and that's how iced tea was born. So America has some great inventions happening. In 2018, Americans consumed over 94 billion servings of tea. That's more than 3.8 billion gallons. And 84% of that was black tea. I think when you think of iced tea, you think of black tea with sugar and lemon. And in any given day, more than half American population drinks tea. That's about 160 million Americans drinking tea every day. And 75 to 80% of that people drink iced tea. So we were interested in making iced tea. So we blend all of our teas to be as flavorful as hot and iced. Because when you are drinking iced teas, you tend to lose a little bit of the aroma and flavors in the tea. So we actually put a lot more teas in our iced tea bags, and you will get to see in a little bit. When we think of tea, it's a very broad term, but in the actual tea world, we separate teas and tisane. Teas are this left photo is actually the tea plant, Camellia sinensis. So Camellia sinensis, everything that comes from Camellia sinensis, and there are 6 different types of teas, those are called teas. And the rest, like chamomile, the rose, coffee is even tisane, anything herbal, and all the flowers, all the roots, all the tree barks, everything else is actually tisane. And you will get to see that in a little bit. This is Camellia sinensis. So in the Camellia sinensis tea plant, there's varieties. There's Camellia sinensis that comes from China, and then there's Camellia sinensis assamica. They come from India, and then we have a few different ones, few more, and then we have cultivars underneath the varieties. And a good example of a cultivar is a purple tea that is becoming more and more popular in Africa. That is, they're actually Camellia sinensis plant, but they're actually purple. But we do not actually include in the 6 types of teas that we talk about when we are talking about tea. So 6 types of teas are white tea, yellow tea, green tea, oolong tea, black tea, and dark tea, which is pu'er. Pu'er the word pu'er is like champagne and sparkling wine. So champagne comes from a region in France called Champagne, and they're all champagnes, and the rest is sparkling wine. And that's how it is with dark teas. In the dark teas, we have the teas that actually come from Yunnan province, pu'er, are actually pu'er teas. So all of the 6 different types of teas come from Camellia sinensis plant, and depending on how you process it, it becomes white tea, yellow tea, green tea, oolong, and black tea. And the lighter the color of the water, and you can see it in the left photo, you use water that is not as hot, and you might brew it for a little more or less. And often, let's say when we're talking about black teas are fully oxidized teas, and green teas are either pan-fried or steamed teas. Mostly in Japan, they steam teas, and in China, they pan-fried teas. So the teas are a little flatter, such as Longjing, which means dragon well. They're like a little flatter teas because they actually press it down on the pans. Oolong is a very interesting type because you have lighter oolong to really darker oolong. They're oxidized from 0 to 100. So it's almost like it's between green and black tea, and you actually use, in a tea leaf, you would use like the 3rd or 4th bud because they actually shape it into when they're shaping it, they cannot use the very fine buds. What are the benefits of teas? There are a lot of antioxidants, theanine, caffeine, enzymes, mineral, theaflavins. And when we talk about antioxidants in teas, we talk about another way to call them is free radical scavengers. So they go and catch bad cells, which helps us keep young. And we talk about it has a part in cancer and etc. and aging. How do we brew tea is very different in every country. In China, they do more of a Gongfu style brewing. And that is, let me show you, stop screen share. This is basically what Gongfu style teapots look like. Let me take it apart. You put tea leaves in this pot, and you actually put quite a bit of tea in the pot, and then you put water and you pour it like almost 5 to 10 seconds after you put the water in this little teapot. You would pour it in the teacup, and you share often with your friends and families, and you do multiple steeps because you're only brewing it for 5 to 10 seconds. And in really good quality of tea, you would get 6 to 7 to like 30 cups using this. When we brew it in Western style, we brew it in a regular tea mug. This is a smaller mug that I brought. This has a little bit of a filter system in it that I like to use when I'm using whole leaf. And I wanted to show you different, in China, a lot of people use this kind of tea brewer, and it's like a tumbler for them. So you put the tea in this portion, and you pour water in this side, and you would steep it like this. And when you flip it, you get everything drained out. And people just use this every day. Like taxi drivers often have this. A lot of people just carry this around. And it was really interesting when I lived in China for 2 years. It was everybody drinks tea every day. They don't really have ice in China. So you either get like room temperature Coke, or you have to actually ask for ice, because when you ask for like a can of Coke, they will just give you room temperature Coke. And they don't drink their tea iced. They only drink it hot. In the steaming hot summer, they still drink hot water. And they actually have a lot of hot water dispensers all throughout, like airports, schools, and in other places. So they often use this kind of tumbler. At TSUM, we have this kind of tumbler, so you can drink iced or hot teas. This actually really is good at insulating, and I drink tea all day, all night long. So when I wake up, and my drink would still be iced. I am so used to drinking iced tea now that I don't really drink hot tea anymore. Even this is winter in Dallas, but we still wear hoodies around. It's not very cold, so I drink iced tea all day long. And I talked to Chinese medicine doctor last year, and he said that drinking teas or drinking any kind of beverage in iced or hot, it doesn't matter. It's about what you are actually drinking matters. So when in Chinese medicine, in Eastern medicine, I guess, you talk about it. Does this make your body warmer or cooler? Like coffee, all the 6 blends of teas, except for pu'er, mostly it all cools your tea, cools your body, and also most of the herbs, like pretty much all of the flower teas, like chamomile, lavender, chrysanthemum, most of everything kind of cools your body, and like burdock cools your body, lotus root, pu'er. There's some things that warm your body, like licorice. So when you're thinking of, oh, maybe I shouldn't drink iced tea because it's going to cool my body, it's not actually the temperature of the liquid, but it's more about the actual ingredient itself. Okay, gotta go back to the screen share. Okay, in England, they drink, everybody knows English breakfast. We know afternoon tea. English breakfast is actually just a darker black tea that is drank often in the morning because it has a little more caffeine, and usually from Assam in India. In England, they have afternoon tea sets where you have teapot, tea, milk, and sugar. The reason why they drank a lot of milk teas is because they brew it in one pot. So when you do not have a strainer in a pot, tea tends to get really bitter and dark. So when they drink the first pour, it will be a regular tea, black tea. And then the second pour, because the tea and the liquid is sitting in the pot for so long, it's very bitter and it's astringent. So they put milk and sugar to mellow that down, and that's how milk tea was born. I think now when we make milk teas, we use about 100 milliliter of water and then steamed milk. You can do water and milk when you make milk tea, or like chais in India, you can boil the tea leaf with the milk for 10 to sometimes like to an hour almost, and you can drink that really concentrated milk tea as well. This is Japanese matcha. So in Japan, they drink a lot of matchas, green teas. That is what they're accustomed to. Matcha is, I forgot to mention that in the previous slide, but matcha does come from Camellia sinensis tea plant, but they're steamed really quickly and then they're dried out and they crush the whole leaf. So you're actually drinking all of the minerals and you're drinking the whole leaf. It's like you're juicing, it's like you're juicing and you're making a smoothie. This is more of a smoothie version, but it's more bitter and a little more astringent because there's no sugar and you're tasting the whole leaf. So that's why in Japan, you often have like a very savory, like almost way too sweet treats next to you. So it mellows out that bitterness of the matcha. This is Korean teas. Like I said, I grew up drinking a lot of barley teas. And talking about this slide, the top left is Solomon Seal Root. This is ginger tea that is made it into almost like a marmalade, like jamish with sugar and ginger. This guy is cassia seed. This is corn tea, and this is tangerine peel tea. In Korea, I learned to make teas, actually make teas, and meaning more tisanes than actual teas. But I think the reason why we use so much roots and we use tree bark sometimes, we use tree branches, we use pretty much the whole plant. And I think it's because we were really poor as a country. And so we had to utilize everything that we can. We use like the hair of the corns in the corn. We actually use the corn, tangerine peels. Unless we're actually like garnishing, we don't really use that much tangerine peels or like lemon peels, but tangerine peel is actually one of my grandma's favorites. So when I go back to Korea during winters, because it's a winter thing to do, I would make pounds and pounds of tangerine peel, but you actually get a very little result. The middle one is what you see often in grocery stores in Korea. So you have burdock, barley. This guy is corn hair. I don't know what that is in English. But so you drink a lot of tea in Korea. We're really accustomed to drinking a lot of tea instead of water. This is how it was when I was growing up. We always had a bottle of barley tea at home. This is actually what barley looks like. You roast it. So it's everything in Korea. We like to roast our tea. So it's a little more robust. It has a roasty, nutty feel to it. I thought this was an interesting image. I remember when I was in first grade, we didn't really have good HVAC back then. So we had like a drum and it was a fire pit. And the teacher would leave a large pot and he would make the tea in the actual classroom and we will drink out of that. So I thought that was very interesting to see. This is tea bags. So in most of the grocery stores, we look at, you get 1 to 2 grams of tea per tea bag like this, like Lipton. More of a cheaper, like under $6 tea boxes will have paper tea bags and they're about a gram per tea bag. and they're made out of paper. And when you brew it, you actually taste that pulpiness that I do not like. So we use these little pyramids. They're made out of PLA, which is made out of corn. It's a little, it still has a little bit of plastic in it, but they're 100% compostable, and the tags and the string is also compostable. We put 3 grams of tea in our tea bags, so you can either multiple steep it, or you can you brew a bigger Texas size cup. They actually come loose like this, and they're tea bags. So when people come in and ask, do you have loose leaf? We can make you a loose leaf bag in the back, but we tea bag things so it's consistent every time. Consistency is very important, and we get a lot of questions from people. Why does it taste different when I make it at home? It's because we have 200-gallon reverse osmosis tank in the back. So all of the water, our hand washing water and dishwashing water, is all reverse osmosis. So nothing touches tea that is not filtered. So water is very important when you're brewing teas. I am really sensitive to taste. So when I taste water, like I don't drink tap water, I would bring my own teas around because I actually taste that mineral, and almost like pipes are rusty. You taste all of that in your tea. So I think that's one of the biggest reason when you make it versus when we make it, it's different. When at home, we have gallons of water that we used to get from Whole Foods that are reverse osmosis. So everything is always the same quality. And looking at this picture, the left is our iced tea bags. Let me show you. This is our iced tea bag. This is lost that guy. This is a tea bag. So this has 3 grams of tea. This is 21 grams of tea. This is going to make a half a gallon of iced tea. And we actually put quite a bit of tea, and some people tell me I only use half, but we take and consider you're putting ice when you're pouring in. So you're gonna dilute that water tea liquid. So this is what you get. You get 4 of this in a tea box. So you make 2 gallons of tea in total with our iced tea boxes. Next screen. This is what loose leaf tea looks like. The left one is our Just Peachy with our Phoenix Oolong, citrus rinds, and pineapples and peaches. The second one is our Pina Colada. We wanted to mimic Pina Colada, because I love that drink. I do not drink alcohol, so I drink that virgin. So I wanted to make a fun tea version of that. So it's a white tea base, so it's a little lighter, and it has apples, pineapples, coconut, and it's coconut flavoring, not actual coconut pieces in it, because I care about the clarity of water. And when you start putting anything oily, it will cloud up the whole tea. And even if you have coconut allergies, because it's flavoring, you will be fine drinking it. The next one is our calming potion. It's 3 simple ingredients. It's chamomile, lavender, and vanilla. So it's very calming, soothing, anti-inflammatory, and it's an herbal tisane blend that we have. We like to use a lot of dried fruits and naturally sweet ingredients. Like in hibiscus itself is very tart because it has a lot of vitamin C's in it. Pretty much a lot of things that have vitamin C's in it will be tart, such as like rose hip, hibiscus. So we add tiny bit of licorice to mellow that tartness out, but you don't actually taste that licorice flavor that a lot of people such as myself don't like. And in our rooibos sunset, rooibos is a South African tea plant. It's an herbal tea. It doesn't have any caffeine, but it actually has antioxidants and a lot of minerals that are great for you. And it's a little sweeter. And that has rooibos, honeybush, caramel, and vanilla. So it's naturally sweet without sugar. And I love drinking that all night long. When you're making tea, I would love for you to try alternative sweetening methods such as stevia, rhodiola, licorice are the main things that will make your tea a little bit sweeter. Stevia has that lingering aftermath kind of feel to it that I personally do not like, but a lot of people are okay with. And if you put a little bit, it's pretty okay. When you're brewing iced teas, you can brew it in 3 different ways. One is flash brew. So in a pitcher, you would put a tea bag in water and you would brew it for 3 to 5 minutes, take the tea bag out, put ice and water and fill the whole jar. That's the easiest, fastest way of brewing it. You can make a sun tea. You can put tea bag in a jar and leave it outside, and this warmth of the sun will brew the tea, and that takes about some teas like 3 hours to like 7 hours. But you get the warmth and the energy of the sun. So I sometimes like doing that. When I'm traveling, I would just put something like this in front on top of the car, and it will just brew as we go, and I just drink it around. Cold brew is, I think, the easiest way actually than flash brew, but it takes the longest time. So you put a tea bag in just regular water, you put it in the refrigerator overnight, like when you go to bed, put it in, take it out, and take the tea bag out the next morning, and it would be ready for you. So I think that's very simple. We want you to share the teas. Teas are meant to be shared and with your loved ones. So that's why we make our teas. That's why we have iced tea bags, and you can share it with your whole family, your loved ones, your friends. And we are coming up with new menus for February. So we're going to do a little tea parties. It's going to be really pretty. So if you're around, please come by. We have a location in West Village that is here. We used to be at the farmer's market, and you can find our tea boxes in Foxtrot, Canopy Hotel, Coneco Studio, Jade and Clover, Brownback Provisions, and a few other places. So if you go to our website, you will see everything that we have to offer. When you are brewing pots of tea, I wanted to show you what are the things that you can use. So these are what you put teas inside. I think a lot of people have like this kind of strainer. You put teas in here and you put it in the water. The thing that I do not like about these guys is teas actually expand a lot. And because this is so little, it doesn't have much room to grow, you're not going to get the fullness of the flavor. So either brew it and pour all the water out in like a strainer like this, or we have these.
I think you're still sharing your screen. So if you're trying to show us some.
Sorry. Stop here. So this was the strainer that I was talking about. You put a little bit of tea in here and you dunk it in. This is another fun one. Ta-da. Or when you are making pots of tea, you would strain it instead this kind of thing. Or these are really just simple and easy, and these are 100% compostable, and these are called tea sacks. there are like 2 brands in this whole world. There's this one and another one. We carry these brands because this has 4 different sizes, 1 to 4. And this is more for brewing pots of teas. And this is more for like 1 to 2 cups. What is really useful to have when you're brewing tea? This is my, I like dogs. So this is my timer. It's always good to have a timer because if you're doing on your phone, you sometimes lose track of things. And I wanted to show you, this is tangerine peel that I made for my grandma, and I have some left over. This is tangerine peel. They're great for digestion. And this is chamomile. We all know this flower. This is lemongrass that we got from a garden, and I dried it out and I cut it so you can, oh, it smells great. This is black tea. These are loose black tea. And these are lavender. This is tisane. So that is what I have to show you guys. Thank you. That's it for me. Paige.
All right. Well, thank you for the great information. I didn't know there were that much about tea. Very interesting.
This is just the beginning, guys. There's so much more.
Oh,
let me just
see. We have a few questions. Feel free to continue typing your questions in the chat. We will get to them. Let's see. What does Orange Pekoe, where does Orange Pekoe fall in your list of 6 different teas?
So Orange Pekoe is actually, let me just like pull up something from online. When you are, let me screen share. Pekoe is what we call the tippiest part of the tea plant. And that's actually the name of my dog. Why do I not see that? Maybe Google. I use a search engine called Ecosia. It helps to plant trees. Every 200 searches, they plant 1 tree for you. So I like to search on that, but they don't have everything that I need. So how do I search? How do I share the screen? Sorry. Screen share. This is what we want to look at. So this is the tea plant. The tippiest part is called, these are just names of tea leaves. So flowery orange pekoe, FOP, is the tippiest baby leaf. The second one is orange pekoe. The third one is pekoe, and so forth. And sochongs are what we often use for oolong teas. So it's the second leaf is orange pekoe. Next question.
Let's see. Back to the chat. Let's see. What do you recommend for those who can't tolerate caffeine?
Then I recommend drinking either pu'er dark tea. It has the least amount of caffeine, if any, because it's fully fermented. There's actually sheng pu'er, which is not fermented, and there's pu'er that is fermented. So that would have That will be tea, but it tastes a little different. In Western culture, you brew pu'er to be like this almost dark, concentrated, coffee-looking brew. But when you actually make pu'er in China, because you're using these gongfu method, the pu'ers are very light and almost flowery too. So when I brew pu'er, I saw my parents brewing like a large pot of tea of pu'er, dark tea that was bitter, and that was crazy. I was like, what are you guys doing? That's not what you're supposed to do with pu'er. So when you brew pu'er, I would do smaller steeps and do multiple steeping. And I would recommend you to try different teas like herbal teas. Rooibos is one of my favorite teas. Chamomile is so widely known in America. So something like that. Try different herbal teas.
Okay, good to know.
I see that. Do you recommend any books to learn about teas? I brought teas from we have a whole range of books from herbalism, tarot, Reiki, to tea books, crystal books in our store, because those are the places where I'm interested in. James Norwood is a great author. He wrote multiple different books. Any books of his, it's a little harder to read. There's a book called Tea Sommelier that is really easily explained. This is by far the favorite tea book. It's beautiful because aesthetic always matters. And it explains a lot of things, and the quality of the book is amazing. Talks about different chemistries, talks about different teas. I really like this book. Oh, this is the Art and Craft of Tea by Joseph Wesley. Yep.
All right. Great. I didn't even think about books. That's a good idea.
That is a great. And Dallas Public Library has a lot of books. I actually went and got like 20 books from you guys, from tea parties to tea books. So check Dallas Public Library out, guys.
There we go. Can you give any suggestions for brewing tea with nuts? I had a great nut tea at a Thai restaurant one time, and it had nuts at the bottom. It was good, she said. So brewing tea with nuts.
So like I said, teas are everything. Anything you put in water, hot water, or any kind of water, because you don't put hot water when you're brewing sun tea or cold brew. You can put anything in the tea. So in Japan, I saw they had slices of fruits with like green teas, and that was delicious. You get the flavor of the fruit and the sweetness of the fruit with the tea. So I would say like oolong, anything roastier would go really well with nuts. I have not done any kind of nuts in our teas because I would think that the oil from the nuts would cloud the tea, and I really do care about clarity. So, but if you want to make any kind of nut tea, like vanilla would be really good with that. Caramel, anything like caramel, nutty, roastiness would go along well with nuts. Rooibos would go really well with nuts. Yes.
All right. Let's see, those are all of the questions we have in the chat right now. Anyone else? Could you tell again the type of tea containers you sell?
So we mostly focus, I guess I should show you guys our store. Let me walk around. This is our store. Let me show you the outside. We have a planter box. Oh, it's raining. We have a lot of different herbs and things that we use. This is kale, that's lavender, cilantro, dill, this is thyme. I'm actually trying to grow some rosemary over here that hasn't shown up yet. That's it, that's our planter box. We have a whole bunch of plants. When you first walk in, this is our store. Ta-da. This is where I was sitting. Like I mentioned about the sugars, we have white sugar. This is actually cane sugar, but people didn't really understand what cane sugar is, so we just put brown sugar label on it. This is, the cane sugar is okay for people who are vegans. There's some speculation that when you're making white sugar, you use animal bone products. So recommend this one if you are vegan. This is our retail wall. We have tumblers. When you bring tumblers in, you get 50 cents discount. And we do half off on refills in the store. These are all the iced tea boxes over here. We have elderberries because you wanna your immune system to be strong for this COVID season. This is the only containers we do sell. So this is half a gallon. We also have those growlers that we fill for people. This is some of the books because I took some books out. These are some of the books. We want to be a little more eco-friendly with our things. So we actually use straws that are made out of avocado pits, and they're 100% compostable in any landfill. We do use plastic cups because money-wise, it didn't make sense for us to use glass cups. We want it to be affordable enough. So we use plastic 1 cups that do recycled in every single recycling facility. Plastics are graded through 1 through 8, and the 8s don't really get recycled, and 1s are recycled in every single recycling plant. We looked at PLA. We do not have PLA recycling facility in Texas, Dallas mostly. So we couldn't do PLA. I know in California and other places, they do use a lot of PLA cups, but we cannot in Dallas. So we do sell, this is avocado straw, that is hay straw, and the tea sack filters that we talked about. Over here, we have our schedule. This is where we are today. We have a few things over here, and these are all of our hot tea bags. What I talked to you before about, this is my husband, BK. Hi. This is our filter. These are our taps. So the main ingredients of the tap is in the tea. This is black tea. That's oolong tea. This is green tea. This is rooibos. That's chamomile, and so on and so forth. That is us. We do have more fun things in the back. We do have some tea gears here. We have little teapots and jars and little pretty things. One thing that I really wanted to do is I studied art at school, and I love James Turrell and one of my favorite artists. So I wanted to make one space very different. So we have a very, very pink restroom. That's it. Yes, Hannah's piece is here. That is an art by a local artist, Hannah O'Brien. You can purchase that if you want to, DM me. So this is us. And these wall hangings are actually Korean organza that we use to make Korean traditional hanbok, Korean traditional wear. So I wanted to include a little bit of my background into our store. it.
Thank you. That was so neat. Enjoyed seeing your store. I have to come visit in person.
Yes. Nobody comes and sits down anymore. So our store is pretty quiet. Mostly people will just grab drinks and go. I think due to COVID, everybody's scared to be sitting down. So come join us.
Can imagine. Someone's asking about your February celebration that you mentioned. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we are actually launching our afternoon tea party in February. So you can come and drink tea, and we have matcha tiramisu. You get really pretty sandwich. Let me show you a photo. You get really, really pretty sandwich, and you have two different sandwiches. This is the photo of sandwich. I don't know if you can see. You get fruit cup, you get matcha tiramisu, and drink of your choice. And in February, because we have Valentine's Day, we are going to have candle making class, and we are working on a book club. That's happening either the end of February or beginning of March. We're going to do a book club, so hopefully some people can join and rent some book from Dallas Public Library. And I'm going to be doing another class either about herbs or teas. So I try to do one event that is a little more fun and one event that is a little more educational. And everything is posted on our website. We have an event calendar, and we also post a lot of things on Instagram. So follow us if you're not following us. Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds really great. If anyone else, I'm going to post the website one more time in the chat. I think I got lost. So, anyone else have any other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat, or any other comments. We got lots of good comments. A lot of people are on board for it. That February event sounds really cool, and love to visit your store.
Yeah. We're working on a lot of events. We collaborate with a lot of different people in events. We work often with Dallas Site 101. If you haven't checked them out, they have great Instagram where they talk about what is happening that week, or what is new in Dallas. It's for people who live in the city or who are new to the city. I'm planning on doing a CBD event with City Naturals that's also in West Village. I don't know if that's going to happen in February or March, but that is happening soon. So it's going to be CBD tea. And if anybody wants to recommend any kind of events that you want to collaborate with, I would be more than happy to talk to you.
All right. Well, if no one else has any other questions or comments, we want to thank Minji again. This was a great program, and you guys can visit her store and see all the cool stuff she has coming up. Someone was asking about the recording. Yes, this program was recorded, and we will be posting it on YouTube, and we'll also send out the link to everyone, as well as a recap of some of the things that were covered, and so you can check for that. All right, well, thank you all for coming for this great program on tea. If there are no more questions, I guess we will sign off for the day. Thank you. We really enjoyed all the information that you had to present.